Okay, so before we start, just two big announcements, maybe more. First one is during the month of December to help couples get through the holidays without backtracking or backsliding. Because I'll just say in January, I see more, what is the word? Falling apart, breaking down,
Ruptures.
ruptures. Yes, because so much of recovery and our work gets put on hold just to get through the holidays. And then the holidays come with so many triggers. So just to help couples get through the holidays, I'm doing a free webinar every Monday night. We'll put the information in the show notes, but I am really excited about that. I want to say it's like 4 weeks total, but there you
Really
go.
fun. Don't pass that up. Really good opportunity.
Yep, just an hour each week. Then the other thing is for those who can see our video online on YouTube, I am in Costa Rica right now looking at properties to bring you to have an intensive, no, a retreat. We do our intensives at the office. We are hosting a retreat this summer in Costa Rica. You are not only going to get Amie and I for a week, but you're also going to get Hallie Roderick, and it is going to be deep diving into your healing. So this isn't for people who have just started their recovery work. Though if you have just started and we're here in the end of November, maybe by July, you actually would be in a great place for this if you're regularly doing your work. But this is for women who are really ready to do deeper level work. So check that out. And if you can see behind me, it is so gorgeous. And just
You've
being
been
here.
showing me around the property, and I am so jealous that I'm not there with her right now. We're very excited about this. We cannot stop talking about it, the three of us. It's going to be incredible, but it's limited spaces.
Yes.
So you are going to want to jump on that. I think we're half full already. So
Yes. It's only opened up a week ago. So yes, I would jump on that right away if you are interested. And you can put a deposit down and pay it over time as well.
yeah, very excited. And I'm just loving the whole background right now. You can see the ocean. It's incredible. You had monkeys in your trees this morning, which so fun. So fun. I'm going to have a hard time not being super distracted in our conversation today, but it is a good conversation. It's one of those that Alana and I feel like you can't have enough because we see a lot of confusion, a lot of conflict, a lot of questions, a lot of ruptures that actually happen from check-ins. And that's what we're talking about today is what a couple check-in is. So what the purpose is, what it isn't, when it isn't helpful, who's in charge, how it can be weaponized. We're just going to dive into this a little bit. Not that we will cover everything. I'll reserve the right to do another episode on this in case something else comes up that we want to share about it. But I think just starting, Alana, with when we're chatting before we hit record, I wanted to back up and have you explain, because I don't think every couple is ready for check-ins. And that is one thing that I will hear is they're doing these check-ins and my partners are just being injured and re-injured in them. When I get a better idea of where they're at in their couples work and individual work, I'm like, whoa, why are we doing check-ins? Like we're jumping ahead. So can we just start with the purpose of a check-in, when a couple should consider being ready for that?
Yeah. Well, can I just first say, like a disclaimer, there's no one answer. So even if I give a generalized, as general as I can possibly make it, there's going to be exceptions and nuances. And so first, I want to default to the betrayed partner's nervous system. And even when I say that, there's this part of me that goes, ugh, some of you in the very beginning don't even know where your nervous system is at. But using your nervous system as a guidepost from the get-go can really help guide where you're at, what's happening relationally around you. And so just keep that in your back pocket as I talk about these others. But I would say the purpose of check-ins, is that what you asked? Now my
Yeah.
brain, like, my
Yeah.
brain went into such like protect the betrayed partner mode. Okay, purpose. Rebuilding trust through consistency, creating emotional safety, meaning if it's not creating emotional safety, we're going against the purpose. Making room for attunement, a way that transparency and accountability can start happening, and also a normalizing healthy communication after there's been this betrayal. Now, even as I said all of those, and maybe those sounded clinical, if you're anything like me, I go, "Ooh, those are not phase 1 beginning stabilizing periods." Yes, we do wanna create emotional safety from the beginning, but really starting to attune to each other, that healthy communication, those usually don't happen until we get stabilized first.
Yeah, so what comes to mind when you say that, which I'm glad you pulled that part out, is and how I see this is in those beginning stages, it's more attunement to self. For example,
For both partners.
for both partners. So if my partner is sharing a check-in, I'm attuning to my nervous system, which is why I'm glad you brought up nervous system awareness in the beginning, because that is number one for both of us is this self-awareness, self-attunement, right? I think that's a great way to break that down for phase 1. Then the betrayer, if you're doing the check-in, being attuned to yourself, not in a selfish way, but being emotionally aware and cognizant of your tone, your tact, your timing, your vulnerability, your lack thereof, your defensiveness, your hiding, like self-attunement in this early stage.
Well, yeah, because it makes me think about Absat's model. In phase 1, we are looking at safety, stabilization, watching for abusive patterns, and getting those stopped. And so if we don't have that stabilization first, let's just take the abusive behaviors and communication, the ABCs. If those are still happening, and then we bring in check-ins, check-ins are going to continue those patterns. So
Right.
we really wanna make sure that we have that safety and stabilization occurring before we go and open up this door.
Mhm.
Does
Which
that mean that either of you have to be perfect at it? No. Does that mean you're always regulated? No, you're human, but we need to have an overall stabilization.
Yeah, so I think that leads in nicely to what I felt like was important to address before we get into who leads the check-in, what does it look like, what kind of check-in, who's ready, and when are we ready for that? So you touched on that just a little bit. If there are those patterns, active abuse happening, those those patterns happening, then you're right. It's still gonna show up in those check-ins, and that's oftentimes what I'll see. And then my partners are, like, suffering through it, thinking, "Well, I'm supposed to do a check-in. We're supposed to connect. If we don't, then we're" right? And because 'cause they're really maybe seeing somebody that's hyper-focused on couples work right now in this phase 1. They're trying really hard, they're trying their best to suffer through, but that word I use intentionally, that's creating a lot of suffering, and it's not helpful. So, again, without because I know there's nuance here with each couple, but generally speaking, if those patterns are happening, it's not the time to be doing check-ins.
I like that you said, "Is this helpful?"
Mhm.
Because I think when you step back and you look at it, sometimes sitting through these hard conversations is helpful when there's not abuse happening. You can go, yes, this is hard, but I see the value and here's what I'm getting out of it and here's what they're getting out of it and here's why it's helpful. Other times we are needlessly suffering because we want it to be helpful. We want it to be something that it's not. But in reality, what's happening in those check-ins and where we're at in the relationship, it is not helpful. I would say too, sometimes people need help assessing if that's helpful, if you've been really deeply seeped in these patterns.
Yes, and it's something just also came to my mind, something that I hear a lot. I wanna validate because there's sometimes clients will be betrayed partners will be in this space of like, "You know what? I don't want a freaking check-in. I don't wanna hear his progress or about his group or his I don't wanna hear it. I wanna validate that stage, phase, whatever you wanna call it, I think that there's probably some things happening underneath the hood of the car, so to speak, for my partners to feel that way. Oftentimes, if you are and have been doing the majority of the recovery work for both of you, like you're carrying the weight of recovery, and
Yes.
then they come swooping in and get to check in and check off the list that they're doing something. I just want to validate that it can feel like, you know what? No, you don't get to just all of a sudden come in and do something and, how that goes. So I want to validate that space, which is why if it's not helping you, it's not supporting you as a coupleship, then we push pause. I say that word intentionally too, because sometimes if we stop, I'll see human brains go, well, then maybe the relationship is over, or maybe we're just a lost cause, or maybe, right, kind of go to that other side of the pendulum. So I use that word. Sometimes we need to hit the pause button on it and reevaluate and reassess.
Can I pause on that really quick? Because that word pause, sometimes, and this is for those of you who have been at this a really long time, sometimes I will see partners get stuck in that place of putting a pause. And I'm trying to think of a really tender way to talk about this. Sometimes they will put pause because it's more comfortable to not ever jump into the couple stuff, but they're not willing to actually break patterns. They're not willing to move forward in the coupleship, but they also don't want to move forward in doing really their own individual work and seeing reality for what it is. I have some clients who get really stuck in this place. I'm saying this for those of you, if you have put pause for years, you're in that place of kind of washing your hands of, I'm not going to hear it, I'm not going to do it, but I'm also not going to leave the relationship, but I'm also miserable and going to groups and I can't figure out why I'm not happy or not okay. That is a very stuck place I see some of my individuals get. I just want to call it out for what it is. And I'm not saying you should start doing couples and I'm not saying you should leave, but recognize if you get in that stuck place. I want to put it out there so those of you who are navigating this don't find yourself stuck in that quagmire later.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it would be helpful to and why I think sometimes what you're saying can create that stuck place is that we lose track or never got on track of being on the same page with why we're doing a check-in and what our needs are in a check-in. So again, slowing this way down, if we've lost a sense of what we need from that and what we want for that, what we're hoping from it, what the betrayer is intentionally needing from that as part of their recovery, then that's where I do see them getting stuck, whether
Mhm.
they're doing them out of root with no purpose or they're
Yeah.
not doing them and they're stuck.
I love that.
What do we need? And you've got to know that.
Yeah, which is foundational.
Yep.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because if I'm not being intentional about it, I am checking a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Betrayed partners can check boxes just as much as the individual who's harmed.
I want to give them some ideas of what a healthy need would look like versus an unhealthy need. But also this isn't I don't want to tell you what to do. Sometimes when we give too much information and it's like, well, Alana Davis said, but I do see, for example, when you've had so much reality fragmentation, reality collapse, it is very natural to feel a sense of loss of control and power, which because we talked about this before, we want to sometimes swing over into that control mode. And I will say, working with someone, a professional, to help you navigate your need, because sometimes I see the need come from a place of control and needing to get some of that control back. And I'm not going to diss it. I think that makes sense. It's valid, but also where I think sometimes can harm the purpose of the check in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that because you can have the same action and have the intentions behind it
Yeah.
harmful or helpful. And so I think about if my reality was ripped out from under me and what I thought I could see, now I don't know what I'm seeing. one of the goals could be, or one of my needs of the check-in is to see more of what's reality. Okay. That could be very healthy, but maybe through the lens of, I need to see exactly what you're doing. And I need to have and I've seen this hour by hour, minute by minute check-in of your day, because that's that hypervigilance that goes, I need to tell you, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this. Yes, I can do this. That's very controlling, both through the lens. Oh, even when I just said that's very controlling, I'm like, oh, somebody out there, I know you're doing it and I know why you're doing it, and the hypervigilance, and
Yeah.
probably
That's why
just
I
controlling.
validated it. Like, it makes sense. It makes so much sense why. I've been there.
Yes. And it's not even, I wouldn't even say controlling your partner. It's trying to control your reality because it's been so ripped out from under you.
Correct.
And so, yeah, the same core, I need to see what's reality, could be the need, but just exploring what that means for you. And then again, going back to, and is the way I'm getting this information helpful right now?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
We're going to take a really fast break and tell you about some of the things coming up at Choose. The holidays are coming, and this is a time where, if you're trying to heal from betrayal, can be such a emotional, hard, difficult time. It's a time where there's often so many external and internal pressures and expectations, and triggers can be higher. And so as I thought about the holidays, I thought, how can I support you during the holidays? And so this year, I am going to be offering a webinar series called A Season of Support. It's a free holiday series for couples. You can come as a couple, you can come by yourself, but what it is it's a time for you to really have some support to not only get you through the holidays, but help you not start out in January feeling further behind. The amount of people who come to me in January in crisis mode because they had put aside their healing work and they had just been in kind of a state of functional freeze through the holidays is so many. So what I would like to do is help support you to be able to keep doing your work, have support, have tools, and feel like you can make it through the holidays. So there'll be 4 weekly sessions. They're on Monday nights. It will be through a Zoom webinar. It is completely free. Some of the topics that will be included is holiday triggers, understanding, preparing, and staying regulated, staying connected with each other in the chaos, tools for daily emotional bonding, preventing backsliding, accountability, repair, keeping your healing work alive, and also how to enter January strong, how to enter that new year with a momentum in your healing. So we would love to have you there. You can find everything in the show notes, and sending all the love and support this holiday season. Okay, and now back to the episode.
Another confusion with check-ins is, like, what does that even look like in terms of a check-in? And there's a lot of different models out there. What would you say? I know there's a few that I tend to favor, but I do, again, think it depends on the couple and their needs, which is why we have to know what those are first. Can you talk a little bit about that, or to that?
Yeah, well, I think even over all the years of my own healing, I needed different types of check-ins at different times. Like, I remember in the beginning, I really did need to know, what are the basic dailies that you are doing that show that you're actually putting your feet to the ground? That's the check-in was very action-based. Later, as more consistency happened and more safety was created and there wasn't so much spinning in the emotions, then it was really helpful to be able to share emotions with each other back and forth. But in the beginning, he could not talk about his feelings without going into a very victim place and making everything about him. And you can imagine, as a betrayed partner with your own pain, and they're spinning it until woe is them, that was not helpful. And so those emotional check-ins weren't helpful for us. until there was enough of that, again, stability created.
Mhm.
So what I like to do, if I have a partner one-on-one with me who is saying, hey, I want check-ins, we're going to assess what they're looking for and why they want them and what those needs are. And then I'll give them a few different options. Here's the AEIOU check-in. Here's the Thanos check-in. Here's the Doug Weiss two feelings, two emotions check-in. And then I'll say, as you're listening to them, how's your body responding to each one of those? We're going back to the nervous system, back to the body. And we just feel that out. First, how that even feels within you, to think about that, to imagine what it would be like to share those, to imagine what it would be like to hear that.
Yeah.
And once we do that, then we can go see how it works in action. Because sometimes we go, oh, I said I'm doing this. Now this is what I have to do.
Mhm, mhm.
No, 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 no. This whole journey is about learning and growing and practicing.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to say, and it's a spinoff Vicky Tibble Palmer's Bill of Rights, but like walk down the path. So walk down the path of the AIOU check-in, but you have the right to be wrong and you have the right to change your mind.
Yeah.
And it's that with every step that we take in this journey. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about when check-ins get weaponized, when it's not help. Well, let's start with not helpful, which I think we might have tapped a little bit into that, but I don't know if we said this or not.
I think it's okay to repeat it, though. I think it
I,
is that important.
because I will just say, my partners, and how many times have we said this? Like the body knows the truth before the mind does. If my partner comes and she's like, he's doing it to check off a box, it's performance based. I'm not feeling what I think I should feel during these check-ins. I'm gonna believe her. I'm gonna believe her body, hands down. And that's when it's not helpful. When it's also used as a substitute for that real healing work. Again, I think checking the box, saying that we're doing it just to say that we're doing it. But, and this can work for both, right? Both partners. Like sometimes I've seen the betrayed partner just be like, just get it over with, just because we're supposed to do it. But if that self attunement and attuning to the other person isn't happening, then again, we got to reevaluate because I don't think that's going to be very helpful. I also don't see this as helpful. And I've seen this happen when the betrayer uses it to manage the betrayed partner's feelings rather than
Mhm.
take responsibility
Yeah.
for
Can you explain that? Because I know a bunch of brains probably just blew up a little bit there.
where I see this. I think it can show a couple different ways, but where I see this happen is goes back to, well, I shared with you the thing. I was vulnerable and shared with you my emotion or where I was at. I was, quote, honest with you. You should feel safe or you should feel happy that I shared, or you should, there's some kind of expectation, even transaction that the betrayer is wanting to get from that, from their partner by doing this check-in. Or say my betrayed partner gets really activated by something that my betrayer shared. I would just say that's a false expectation, by the way, to have as a couple, that if there is activation happening, that's okay. It goes back to utilizing healthy, self regulated emotional skills to manage that. But if my partner gets activated, then I see my betrayer go, you shouldn't. See, you're activated. See, I triggered you. I shouldn't give you that information. Or see, this was a mistake.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have gone down that road. And they backpedal. Now my betrayed partner's feeling guilty for having a very normal response to something that the partner shared.
Yes. That's something that comes up often in my men's groups, is that this idea, and it really is subconscious, A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
And it should look like this, like the recipe. Okay, so if I show up in check-ins and I'm regulated and I'm calm and I am able to share this, then she should respond with gratitude or relief, or we're going to have connection.
Or feel safe now.
Yeah, or yeah, now there's a safety. And in reality, more often than not, it takes many A plus B, A plus B, A plus B, A plus B, A plus B before we actually receive the C. But sometimes, especially if we're talking about an addictive brain, we are looking for immediate results.
Yeah.
And that's not how this works. And so that can be a real challenge is when I am working with somebody who is an addict or who has compulsive behaviors, it's really hard to rewire the brain to not look for immediate gratification or immediate response to the input. And so I'm really glad you brought that piece up because I think that what I want to do is for my individual seeking recovery, hopefully take away a little bit of the shame of just going, this happens. Your brain has been hardwired over time to do this. And if you can recognize this, how much better your relationship can start getting when we start tackling this. So let's look at this as an empowerment of, ooh, shoot, I do that. But yay, now I recognize it so I can do something different. And that takes practice. And then for the betrayed partner, if you find yourself in those patterns and you're going to that place you talked about, Amie, which I see so many do, that guilt of, I just need to not have feelings, or I need to just be calmer. I need to fill in the blank, taking away that responsibility for the other person's emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to that self-attunement, self-aware. This is emotional intelligence. I think I talked about this a few episodes ago, just being aware of how emotions, triggers are showing up in yourself first. One more thing I want to mention is frequency. I don't think we talked about that. It's going to, again, go back to we need to be on the same page. We have the right to change our mind. So sometimes I'll see couples every week. And then again, my partner's like, it's being overly activated or it's triggered or something just needs tweaked. That's one of the first things I'll ask is, do you feel like you need it less or more? Like, let's talk about the frequency of that. I just wanted to throw that out there too. This is another thing to be on the same page with and about, and you can change your mind. A lot of times I hear weekly check-ins get thrown around a lot. So I just think sometimes we get that stuck in our head, like, oh, it's supposed to be weekly. This is, again, another, I think, individual couple decision on when we do those.
When you talk about frequency, that instantly goes to, in my brain, of, okay, well, who makes sure it happens weekly or daily or monthly or whatever that is? I'll tell you what I see is I see more often than not the partner who has been betrayed leading that, carrying that, making sure it happens because they're trying to get their needs met. They're trying to get answers. They're trying to get connection.
Reality
It is.
is.
Yeah. And it's one more emotional toll, weight, responsibility that they carry that I do not believe should be theirs to carry. I believe the partner who has done the injuring should be carrying the responsibility based off of what the partner needs, carrying the responsibility of saying, hey, it's our time for our weekly check-in, daily check-in, whatever it is. I'm ready. Does this time work for you right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And even if that's agreed upon time as a couple, right? When we're deciding this, I'm so glad you brought this up because let's say I need a check-in by 10 p.m. Sunday night. And more often than not, 9:58, my partner hasn't heard a thing. 9:58, it's, oh yeah, I forgot. I need to check in. Are you ready? That's not what we're talking about.
Well, you think about the message that sends,
Right?
right? And I'm thinking of a couple different couples where this has happened, where let's say they have a weekly check-in. And so it comes and the check-in is supposed to happen sometime over the weekend. And the partner who has done the betraying, the individual seeking recovery says, okay, I'm going to lead this. That partner Saturday morning wakes up and wonders, when are we going to check in? When are we going to check in? Saturday comes all day long. It's popping in and out of their mind. Saturday comes, it goes, they go to bed disappointed. Sunday comes, they're waiting, they're waiting, they're waiting. Because I guarantee they're thinking about it 100 times.
Mhm.
And then the person who was supposed to lead it Sunday night goes, "Oh, hey, let's check in."
Mhm.
My partner's been in pain, misery, torture for 2 days, wondering when and how and if they would actually follow through and do it.
Yeah.
And even that, like, that pattern, I've seen so many times, and when I catch it, I go, "Okay, that's not helpful." But even when it passes, because the person seeking recovery forgets, my betrayed partners do not forget.
Yeah.
And that is a deep injury that happens when we're already injured.
I really hope those that are on the betrayer side are really listening to that. I feel like you just gave them a little peek inside a betrayed partner's brain, and I hope that they are not going to then weaponize it either, but that it's always on your mind. See, I know you're always thinking about it, so don't you dare. That was a
Well, and of course, they're always thinking about it because their
yeah,
brain is looking for safety and reality.
all the time, all the time. So I hope that you are taking that and know how important it is for you to step up and make very clear that you are going to take charge of this. And look, even if that's a, hey, I'm aware that check-in is this weekend. I'm thinking about it, right? I have a couple things that I want to prepare. So, how does tonight work? Be proactive. All of those skills that I just shared is part of your recovery work. It's part of what a person who's working towards healthy does. And so for my betrayed partners, if you jump in and try to do it for them and plan it for them and say, hey, I'm thinking about this and I haven't heard from you. And why don't we do it tonight? They're missing that opportunity to do the work that they need to in recovery. So hopefully that makes sense. Like, I know it's really hard to stay out of it, but there's a reason
There really is.
on each side for this check-in.
I'll use an analogy sometimes, and it can be uncomfortable for the individual seeking recovery, but I said, if your boss said, "Hey, we need to have a weekly meeting every Friday at 2 p.m." For that, would you forget the meeting? Would you show up 15 minutes late? Would you come unprepared? In most cases, the answer is no. You would think about it, you would prepare for it, you would show up ready, having done the work. And it's that type of energy that I'm looking for. I remember one time going to the airport, and it was an early morning flight, and somebody was gonna give me a ride, and they slept in and did not wake up. And so I drove myself to the airport and said, "Okay, that's." But what was interesting is that same individual would never miss their own flight. So you look at that, right? If it is important to somebody, they will prioritize it. They will make sure that it happens. They will do, I mean, I've done this myself. If I've had one of those crazy, I have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm setting 3 alarms because if by some crazy chance I hit snooze, I want another one and another one.
I'm really glad you brought that up because what I hear betrayed partners' brains doing with that is rationalizing, minimizing, or justifying when their partner doesn't. And their partner does a really good job at manipulating, guilting, blaming, like why they forgot or didn't do it. And so, okay, a one off, maybe a pattern, no. So I'm really glad that you brought that up because a lot of my betrayed partners have a hard time believing what you just said there.
Yeah.
So,
And on the surface, your brain's like, yeah, 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 totally. But then when you're in the middle of it, it
uh-huh.
is hard to step back and see that.
Because it's showing you reality, which is why I think these check-ins really do serve multiple purposes on both sides and in the coupleship. It's a whole triangle. Because them not doing it and you seeing the pattern, you seeing how they show up is information that is helping you assess your reality that was tainted, that was hid, that was lied, that was fractured, and is painful y'all, I know, as painful as it is, it's like on one hand, we want to say, I want reality, but we have all these parts that are like, no, no, I don't. Notice that conflict in yourself. But if we don't have reality, then we can't make that next wise step towards healthy, towards healing. So just really, really good stuff there. I don't want to end without giving just a few examples of what weaponization might look like, just in case this is happening and you're unaware. I think we mentioned them a little bit here and there throughout the episode, but I told you I was sober, so why aren't you over it phrase is a no-go for me.
Do we have to talk about this again? Are we really going back to the past? Are you ever going to move forward? I don't know if you'll ever trust me again. That one feels softer, but it's the same message.
Right. Right. See, I can't open up. See, I can't be vulnerable. See, I shouldn't have. It goes back to what I was saying earlier a little bit, putting that on the betrayed partner now. Those are no-goes. When the betrayed partner is pressured to accept your words in the check-in versus your actions throughout the week.
That. Say that one again, because I feel like that's so big.
When the betrayed partner is pressured to accept your words in that check-in over the actions and behaviors during the week or 2 weeks, no, it's weaponized. When the betrayer uses those check-ins, like I mentioned, to guilt, blame, or manipulate. So my partners will not feel safe in those. They will feel more activated. They'll feel confused. I see if there's a lot of manipulation, gaslighting happening, then they'll walk away feeling more confused than clarity.
Yeah.
And so that's just, again, an awareness for you to go to see your professional and walk through why there might be some confusion there. And then when it's used to shift that responsibility onto the betrayed partner for those emotional reactions. And even the weight, like you mentioned before, which I'm glad you did, the responsibility of these, if that in any way gets shifted. For example, this actually happened to me in my former marriage. It was, I just can't remember. I'm really struggling. I have ADD and I just can't remember. And I'm really trying. I have so much on my plate right now. I have so much that I'm trying to do and manage. Can you just take this for me? Can you just manage these check-ins and take this over for me? And I fell for it. Absolutely 100% fell for it because it came across like I had the rescuer. We were in that dynamic, but played into my fixer rescuer part. And I felt useful. I felt like I could help. And good God, if I could help the guy so that we could get over this, I'm down. Like, give me the tool belt, I'm down. But it's not actually helping. And that's the point I want to make.
Yeah, my helper parts are very similar to that. And at my core, if I could do something that would make a difference, I would 1,000 times over. And part of my problem as a human is I'm actually very capable. And so that has kept me in a lot of those patterns, which a lot of my work really was learning what the patterns were and seeing them. And then me as an individual owning, how do I break those patterns? And then ideally, your partner is doing the same thing, seeing the patterns and going, how do I break my patterns? I keep hearing that kind of woven through today. It is seeing reality, seeing the patterns, assessing what you need, and then moving forward with more clarity and intention.
I love that.
Okay, so final thoughts. Check-ins, we want them mutually agreed upon. We want it based off of the needs. We want to recognize the patterns. We want them purpose-driven and intentional. We want to reserve the right to change your mind. We would love them grounded in clear boundaries and transparency, not fear, pressure, or performance. No easy task, but as you are navigating this, there is a lot of learning and growth and healing that can happen. So using this as just another tool for healing.
Maybe there's one little piece and that you heard. Sorry, I think I cut you off. There was a little delay. Maybe there's one little piece of this that you heard that can tweak your experience. My hope is that you don't feel like it pulled another rug out from underneath you. Like, oh, we're doing it all wrong. I'm going to just remind you what Alana said at the very beginning. This is nuance. There's no like right or wrong. I feel like we're teaching principles that we guide and build on that are more acclimated to your specific needs. So just take a little piece, maybe a principle that you can add to help with the structure of your check-in to be more helpful and beneficial to your healing.
I love that. And I love the question, what is most wise? So tapping into that place of wisdom, what is that next wise little step for you? What is that wise little piece that you want to take away today? Well, thank you for hanging out with us this week. Come hang out with us in Costa Rica this summer.
Gorgeous.
As always, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you all next week.
After experiencing betrayal trauma and you're trying desperately to save your relationship, I know how much energy that takes. But here's the truth. No matter what happens in that relationship, you still need a safe, healthy connection to you. That's where healing really begins. In my self-paced course, Intimacy Within, I guide you through those 7 levels of intimacy: verbal, cognitive, emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical, and sexual, so that you can rebuild that connection with yourself. We use the intimacy triangle: self, others, and higher power, because true intimacy starts with that first corner, you. If you don't know how to honor your voice, understand your thoughts, trust your emotions, and feel safe in your own body, it's going to be really hard to build lasting intimacy with anybody else, even your spouse. This course is here to gently walk you back home to yourself, towards yourself, one level at a time. With the workbook included, practice at your own pace. The self-paced course, Intimacy Within, it was designed just for you, because no matter where your relationship ends, you are absolutely worth healing for. Head over to the show notes or go to amiewillz.com and click on Intimacy Within, and you can start today. Take care, everybody.